All right. Do me a favor, say something. Make sure we're good.
I'm saying things, making sure
Perfect.
that we're good.
We are good. Excellent. All right. Thank you for that quick potty break, everybody. Anyhow, so you wear the bracers. You head over to the blacksmith shop in your neighborhood. It's early enough as you head out that you just see an older young woman, probably in her mid to late teens, like 16, 17 years old, is in the process of restarting the coals. You realize that in a forge, like the fires never really go out because it takes forever to get them to the right temperature. But she's like working to build them, and she's she's in her mid teens, but she has the musculature of a much older person. Um, she seems kind of built.
So she's jacked.
She's jacked. She's got a bit of she's human, but she's got a bit of the Malin like breadth and just musculature to her, despite being fairly young. And you're guessing this is the elder apprentice that Ronnie was referring to.
Is Rania around?
She kind of glances at you, and her eyes get a little wide for a second, and she's like, "Oh, you're you're Adira. Okay, yeah. He's in the back. I'll go get him." And she kind of turns and she scampers away with the speed of somebody who's 15 or 16 years old, or 16 or 17 years old.
Adira looks at the coals that she has left to, you know, whatever, and a little bit of a throwback. Oh, Gregory, pump the thing. And then just lets that be.
Ronnie comes in the room, followed by the young apprentice, and you see he's like he's got his hair kind of short cropped or whatever, but you do see like the what length there is kind of dented on one side, like he just woke up. And he kind of, oh, Adira. And you see him look over at the bellows that are working themselves. Did you do that?
Well, Gregory did, but yes.
Oh, okay. And you see you see the apprentice just like he kind of turns to her like, Gregory did it. Like it's just nothing, and he turns back to you and he's like, I did not expect you to see you back so early. What can I do for you?
Well, there's a lake that I need to go to, and it might be dangerous. And you know how parents are. They don't like the idea of their little girl going alone.
I mean,
Doesn't matter that dragons, I have killed dragons, but it's fine.
he kind of laughs. He's like, well, I mean, I never knew my parents, but I've heard. And are you asking me to come with you?
Well, if you would like.
Kind of turns. Brianna, I'm going to be gone for like, kind of does some mental math. How long do you think it'll, I mean, I know how long it's going to take to get there, but how long do you think it'll take once we're there?
I truly have no idea.
I might be gone for a week or two. Um, Take care of everybody, keep the shop running. You know how to do all the things that I know how to do. And she's like, yeah, but not as good. And he's like, I know. But sometimes you have to be put in charge of something so you can understand how to run a good shop. You can do this. We've been prepping for this. You're fine. Don't worry about it. I'll be back. I gotta go with Adira to make sure that her parents are happy. And she kind of, little like deer in headlights. Then she kind of looks back over at the bellows, which is still going. And she kind of goes, is that going to keep happening or what? That's kind of directed at him, but it's mostly directed at you. Like, she's looking at him, but you can tell the questions is more for you.
uh, No, it's not, because I think it stops as soon as, or does it stay for as long as the spell stays,
I think
even if I move away?
there's nothing, as far as I know, there's nothing in the description that says it'll go anywhere if you move out of proximity. So it'll stay until the spell ends.
Um, how? I think it's an, what is it? 10 minutes?
And I think it might be an hour.
Okay, whatever it is, I tell that length of time. It's not important. This is just for flavor.
Yeah,
So, I say that length of time. Oh, Gregory will be at it for about an hour or so. Um, for flavor, can I just tell her if like it's good? Like she can say stop, and he can
Yeah.
stop. Okay, so then I
I mean,
say,
you can tell Gregory to follow her instructions.
Gregory, follow her instructions until you disappear.
There's no response because he's silent.
You can tell Gregory to do things. He can't talk, nor is he visible, but I don't know. Trial run. Tell him to do something. Small.
At this point, Ronnie has gone to the back to grab like his pack and stuff, and you see the girl kind of stop using the bellows and go pick up that hammer.
But you have to say, "Oh, Gregory," first.
Oh, Gregory, stop using the bellows and go pick up that hammer. Of course, the bellows stop, and a moment later, the hammer lifts off the bench. She kind of leans in closer to you and is kind of like, "Is Gregory a ghost?"
Oh no, nothing so as insidious as that. Gregory is just a extension of my force of will.
You see that look. She's kind of like, "Oh." You get the impression that that doesn't actually make her feel a lot better. She's kind of. She's dealing.
If you're concerned, Gregory will cause you no harm.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
And he can't cause anybody harm, truth be told.
Good. Gregory, go back to the bellows. I'm going to keep opening the shop. And the bellows, the hammer literally just drops onto the ground. Tink, 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 tink. And he floats back over and starts using the bellows again.
I will say, you do have to be very specific with Gregory.
I see that. She goes, picks the hammer up, puts it back where it belongs. Continues about her business. Ronnie comes back a minute later, and he's changed out of whatever he was sleeping in. You think maybe he threw on some trousers. But yeah, he's changed out of that. He's thrown on like a coat, and he's got a backpack, but you don't see any weapons.
We might have to stick things with swords and stuff.
Yeah, I don't stick things anymore.
Oh, good. And then Adira just walks out of the thing. Come along.
He follows. I mean, I punch
it's quite
things.
admirable. Oh, you punch things. Well, either way, quite admirable.
It's a long story, but ever since I picked up the sword, nothing but bad came from it. So once you guys gave me a second chance, I decided it was time to put away the sword, but I wasn't quite willing to give up the ability to defend myself, and he kind of glances back over his shoulder as you guys are just starting to get out of view of the young apprentice and protecting the people that I care about.
As I said, very admirable indeed. Well, we may need to punch things then.
I will happily punch things on your behalf.
Or to hit them in order to get their attention.
You point, I punch.
All right, two very different references coming in to play. All right.
Tell you what, if the first person to contact me on Instagram with the correct answer to where you point I punch came from will get a free subscription to my channel on Twitch.
That shouldn't be that hard with your audience.
I don't know, man. It's an old reference.
Okay.
And
okay.
A lot of the audience, I mean, I'm on the older end of my audience. I think, well, some of them are older, but a lot of them are about 10 plus years younger than I am.
Really? All right. All right. Well, there you go. That's a deal of a lifetime, folks.
So yeah, if you can tell me where "you point, I punch" comes from, I will give you the first person to tell me. Will get a free Twitch subscription to my channel.
That's awesome.
So, we'll say for a month because I'm not made out of money. Anyway, you guys travel on your way. Ronnie has been to Lake Kavor.
Oh, good.
It's a place that he, in his words, people with good hearts tend not to want to stay.
Well, I'm so happy we're going for it. We're going towards it.
He just kind of shrugs as if to say, "This was your idea. I'm just along for the ride."
Well, I don't like it, but...
And as you continue on your way, I keep reaching for a mouse that isn't there. As you go on your way, it takes about 5-6 days to get there. One sec. No, not right now. When I'm done. Sorry, dealing with children.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes about 5-6 days to get there. You do have a couple of random encounters, but you're of a level at this point that kind of a moot point.
Unless we get attacked by a damn dragon, but,
I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
However, as you are traveling along, he does mention that there is one settlement on the edge of Lake Kavor. And it's not a nice place. Think Tortuga from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Except rather than, chaotic and just literally, chaotic neutral, it's, evil-ish.
Yeah, it's more along the lines of, it's Tortuga if you mix in a little bit of Cthulhu.
Oh, good. That sounds great.
Or Mos Eisley. There we go. It's a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Okay.
Suddenly I'm getting tangled allegories in my head. Ronnie is Flynn Rider. You're Rapunzel. And they're going.
Wow.
They're going to the tavern that they go to where everything just smells like the color brown.
Yep.
Anyway,
it's a good film. I actually really enjoyed that one.
It's a solid flick. It really stands up pretty well too.
Yeah.
I would watch the shit out of a sequel. Anyway, after about 5 days, you get close to the lake. The trees around here are alive, but they have that kind of twisted, gnarled look of trees that are either really old or there's something funky in the soil that just made them grow all weird and gross. Everything is kind of covered. It's kind of perpetually raining. Everything is covered with a thin sheet of mold or mildew, and it smells like that too, with just a little bit of that, not just the mildew, but a little bit of that damp rot. So it's like walking into a swamp. It's less swampy and more just marshy.
Yeah.
Swampy indicates that it's more warm, and this is a little bit more temperate.
Sure.
But yeah, so it's like walking into a bog in northern Minnesota during the spring fall months.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of pervasive smell. The rain's coming down. There's that thin layer of mildew or mold or something all over everything, every rock. The roads are just kind of muddy and gross. Even when you find a purchase on a rock in the road, it's slick and icky.
And as Adira is it's finding it impossible to keep herself clean
and
pristine.
Every 5 minutes, OCD, just prestidigitation.
She's just I immediately regret all my decisions.
like, maybe I don't need to learn where I came from. I feel like this might have been a mistake.
This isn't worth it. Ronnie, let's go back to Saul's Rest. I'm okay.
And the game was ended.
Goodbye, folks.
I assume you press forward.
Yes. Yeah.
And you eventually find yourself in this settlement. Now, at some point, this settlement might have been an actual, like, decent hamlet, but it's kind of been left to seed. It was probably left to nature for a long time, and then a group moved in and kind of did the bare minimum to make it livable.
Okay.
But as you're drawing closer, like, at first you're like, oh, I smell, like, even through the rain, I smell campfires. And then you smell meat, but it's like rancid meat cooking. And you see Ronnie kind of stops as you get near-ish the edge of town, and he kind of looks over at you and your kind of waterlogged, clean, but waterlogged self, and is this where you want to... I mean, we could just go check out the lake. We can skip this if you want, but if there's any information about the lake that you need to know, this might be the place.
How bad is it? Scale of 0 to I might have to kill everything in there.
6?
Okay. And then she starts walking toward the settlement.
He follows behind. There is... The houses, like I said, had been kind of... It looks like they'd been left to nature and then just kind of brought up to the bare minimum of what would be livable. Most of them don't really have doors or windows. You do see people kind of moving through the streets. If they're not kind of moving furtively with, like, cowls pulled over, like, it is definitely a place where this is where you would pick up a less than reputable job. This is where you go when you want to hire a cut rate assassin. So yeah, if the people aren't, like, having their cowls over their head, and admittedly it's raining, so lots of people have their cowls over their heads, but kind of glancing furtively back and forth. Whenever you kind of get close to people, you see that people, like, reach for hidden weapons or just blatantly reach for a sword. They don't pull it out, but they just put their hands on
they
it.
don't get close to me because I've already flamed on. I have my like frightening presence or whatever the hell it is. So, like, the way I imagine it, unless they succeed, like, the whatever saving throw it is, like, they're kind of keeping, like, a radius around us.
Yeah, I'm not going to roll for every individual in the town, but if there comes to an NPC that you actually want to, like, scare the shit out of,
yeah,
we'll get to that point. But there is kind of there's a nod to, like, a shop or two. There's a butcher. There's a baker, of all things, kind of a little surprised. There appears to be a kind of a general store. There's a tavern. I'm using these terms extremely lightly.
Sure. We'll go to the general store. And whatever shopkeep is there, whoever it is.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
You see this as you walk in. You see this short dwarven, even short for a dwarf, but a short dwarven woman with her kind of long sideburns, neatly braided. But each sideburn has, like, at the end of the braid, there appears to be, like, a bone stuck through it. Her teeth are kind of rotten in her mouth. She doesn't have an eye patch, but she's very clearly missing one eyeball. Kind of sitting rather boredly behind the counter, kind of glances up at you. Actually, as the door opens, you hear this, "Whatever you do, don't steal anything." And as you kind of step into the room, she kind of stops and looks up at you. kind of straightens up. I'm terribly sorry, my lady. What can I do for you?
I'm here to purchase information.
Well, I don't sell much in the way of information. I more sell general goods. And you kind of look around, and it looks like a pawn shop that has been picked over after Black Friday.
Oh, no. Well, then you can sell me the information of who I would talk to who can provide me extensive information.
Are you still flamed on?
I'd probably not. Well, no, because I don't want to, I'm not trying to scare her at this point. So as I enter, I'd probably turn it off.
Go ahead and make a persuasion roll.
28, because persuasion's one thing Adira is good at.
Well, I suppose that would greatly depend on the type of information you're looking for. This is the kind of place where we don't sell information about who comes and goes.
No. It's about the lake.
She kind of blinks a couple of times. The lake? Well, here's for free. It's wet, and it's that way.
Great. The more, how shall I say, arcane elements of the lake,
You see her kind of struggling for a moment and you realize that she's hung up on the word arcane.
Magic parts of the lake.
Right, I knew that. Well, I don't know nothing about no magic in the lake, but, for a silver piece, I'll tell you who might.
7 coppers? Is that the conversion? Is it 10 coppers equals 1
10
silver?
coppers equals 1 silver, yeah.
Yeah. 7 coppers?
9 coppers.
8.
Right. She holds out a hand.
Plink, plink, plink.
Mark it off. I know it's just a fucking drop in the bucket, but mark it off.
We're like over 2,000 platinum apiece. All right.
All right.
The fact that I even haggled that was more for flavor than anything.
I don't care. Mark it off. Anyway, all right. You see she counts it twice, and you realize that she's counting it twice, not because she doesn't trust you, but because she seems to have lost count or forgotten how. You're going to want to talk to... I had a name, and then it went... I have thought. Thought goes zoom.
Ooh.
You're going to want to talk to Grover.
Great. And where might I find Grover?
She kind of glances out the window. You think presumably at the sun, but it's overcast. This time of day, probably at the tavern.
Thank you very much for your time.
He might be sober at this point. It's hard to say.
Well, we have ways of making people sober.
She gets kind of a terrified look in her face for a second.
Adira kind of blinks as if she's maybe going to correct that assumption, and then just doesn't, and then walks out the door.
Okay, you guys head over to the tavern.
Yeah.
It is the busiest place on the street.
Cool.
Again, very Pirates of the Caribbean. Lots of just loud noise, music, but it's very discordant because, 1, the instruments are kind of crap. 2, they don't really know how to play the instruments. Somebody seems to be trying to sing. But yeah, so you walk in and it's just this kind of chaotic mass of people moving around, drinking, carousing, generally having a good time.
Adira moves up to the barkeep and when she gets his attention, says, "I'm looking for Grover."
You see the bartender is a kind of a whipcord thin, maybe half elf. Kind of glances at you. Considerably more intelligence is the wrong term. Maybe cunning. And he says, "I generally don't give out information about my clientele. Especially to people that I've never seen before. Especially people that are as clean as you."
She kind of chuckles and says, "And for what price might you? If it's any consolation, we don't want to hurt him."
What is it that you wish from Grover?
Apparently he knows some things about certain aquatic bodies that we are interested in.
That's news to me. You're a fancy person. 100 gold.
Adira laughs and says, "You wouldn't know how to spend 100 gold in this place."
No, with 100 gold, I can leave this place.
She thinks about it for a second and says, "You're a fool to think that I carry around 100 gold on my personage at all times."
No, but your bodyguard might. Just points at Ronnie.
Ronnie damn well knows that he doesn't carry around 100 gold on him.
Ronnie's like, no?
This is when Adira will flame on and then attempt a intimidation check. So flame on first.
What is the DC on your...
Have to look that up again. It got higher with all the different things she has. Have fun with 23 spell save DC.
Jesus. Yeah. Nope. That super didn't work.
His will save?
I botched.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, so he super botched.
So tell you what, Ronnie, or not Ronnie, whoever you are. Tell you what, barkeep. Here's my offer to you. On one hand, you tell us where Ronnie is, and I give you Grover. Shit.
You really want to find Ronnie right now. He's right behind you.
Well, I liked the name Ronnie for this character, and it's just sticking with me. You're going to tell us in one way this goes down. You are going to tell us where Grover is, and I'm going to write you a promissory note that when you take it to some place that Adira would have money stored, a bank, some shit like that, you will have 25 gold pieces to start a new life. Congratulations. We have Ronnie. You can start a new life once you get there. The other way this goes down is that you do not tell us where Grover is. And we do terrible things to you.
He's just kind of like standing there, like his eyes wide, and the whole bar has gotten silent at this point. And he just kind of, he's in the back. Just go. Don't worry about the money. Just go.
Adira takes out a little notepad, scribbles a promissory note for 25 gold pieces, and says, "And what is your name, sir?" You don't need to give it to me if you have.
He gives you a name,
and says, writes it down and asks, "How do you spell that?" And then writes that down.
Fair enough.
And then hands him the promissory note and says, "Leave," and then goes into the back.
Okay. You head into the back, and there's a row of...
because we're doing accrual accounting here, I will mark off the 25 gold pieces now as opposed to when it is actually withdrawn from whatever bank, because no cash accounting here, all accrual. Anyway, keep going.
You walk into the back. There's a series of... You walk into the back and you realize that this probably at one point was a stables. But it has been converted to a series of stalls that are used for pallets. For clandestine liaisons, if you will.
Okay.
Currently, none of the stalls appear to be being used for that function.
Well, that's good.
But you do hear kind of on one end... I mean, it is like... When you guys got here, it's like 10 a.m.
Sure.
And you're like, it's this boisterous now. Imagine how it gets, like, later.
Don't want to.
But you hear some pretty significant snoring coming from the very far end stall.
Okay. Adira walks over there and stares down at what I imagine is just a wretch of a human being. Or a wretch of a person.
You do see a person snoring again rather loudly. He is older. He's got a bit of the... Like, physically, he's got a bit of the Keith Richards vibe.
Okay.
And he's... Like, the clothing that he's wearing is actually newer. Like, you kind of recognize... It's, like, of a more modern style. But it's still rather shabby, like it's been worn consistently for a long period of time. And yeah, like the floor is covered with vomit and just... But yeah, he is snoring. There's a half-empty bottle of some brownish liquid dangling from one of his hands.
Lovely. Oh, this is ridiculous. I don't know if this would work, but maybe for flavor you'd let it happen. Adira wants to give him an inspiring speech to wake him up. Because, you get hit points from it, temporary hit points or whatever, and I don't know.
All right. In this case, roll a perform check.
Okay. It's charisma based, so it should be fine. What is that? 21.
Okay. And give me the gist. Give me the gist of the speech.
It's gonna start from like he's down to the dumps, and then he has a chance to like lift up his life and things like that. And there's gonna be like a couple of like tough love coach moments in there.
Sure.
And as he I imagine as he like slowly rouses, if that's the way it works out, it's gonna end it, and then you will go on to do great things in your life. But for now, you are going to tell us about this lake.
Right. Who the fuck are you?
A person who wants to know about the lake. The magical arcane-ness of it.
You see him kind of like shake his head and kind of... Literally, you hear his bones like creak as he moves to a sitting position. Right. Like... Which lake is that?
Is he like an old surfer dude? Because that's the vibe that I'm getting.
Sure.
All right. The one that this is built on, that this settlement is right next to. That is the lake, right?
Yes, that is the lake.
Okay.
Right. He kind of glances around. Give me a moment. And then he slaps himself super hard in the face.
Well, that's what those extra hit points were for.
All right. You want to know about Lake Kvor?
Yes.
It's a lake, it's wet, it's that way.
Wow. A dwarf said the exact same thing. She had very bad teeth. Smelled better than you did, though.
Probably. She's probably not covering her own sick.
Do you want me to take care of that for you?
Can you?
Vroom, it's gone.
And the clothes are cleaner than they've been in months.
Yep.
Oh, all right. All right. I like you.
The lake. Beyond, it's wet and it's right there.
Well, the lake has quite a reputation. Have you not heard of... of course you haven't. You wouldn't be asking if you did. So, a long time ago, sometime... I mean, well, before Godfall, right? And he starts to weave this story. And you realize he's actually pretty good at it. I.e. he has ranks in Bard. But the long and the short of it is he explains that before Godfall, there didn't used to be a lake. There was actually it wasn't a mountain necessarily, but it was a hill. And on top of this hill, there was a temple to Caruth. And at some point, and again, he's kind of fuzzy in the way that storytellers are about the dates. At some point, the followers of Caruth in this area, there was some kind of new personality leader, if you will, who had kind of taken over the congregation of this particular temple and was starting to preach some of the darker aspects of Caruth, bearing in mind that before Godfall there were hundreds of gods.
Sure.
But he started teaching some of the more evil stuff that pertains to Caruth, and kind of perverting whatever good message there was that Caruth, some of the good things that Caruth also represents, was kind of perverting that message. And in this region, this religion became very widespread, and he started referring to himself as basically like the leader of this particular faith, announcing that he was the Hierophant of Caruth. And such was kind of widespread this swath of this particular sect of this religion, that the Hierophant began to think of himself as Caruth's avatar. And eventually, he had struck upon this plan to ascend into the heavens, and Caruth would bestow divinity upon him. In response to that, Caruth, or possibly one of the other many, many gods, on the day that he demanded that Caruth raise him up to divinity, instead struck the temple low with a fiery rock from the sky, shattering this area, creating this deep crater, supposedly destroying this temple, everybody in it and around it, which he had thousands of people who were helping him, pray to Caruth for this elevation. And ever since then, the lake has been not a nice place. Now, few people have gone, because there was a town that had kind of built up around this, and Ronnie asks the question, like, was it this town? And he's, no, this town is newer than that. This town is post Godfall. This is one of the few places that humans could come during the elven occupation that the elves would generally avoid because they thought the lake was evil. But even that's like 8,000 years old. But basically, there are some divers that periodically will go into the lake to try to salvage something from the town that had been, dropped into this water, into this crater, hoping that there'd be some kind of artifact or something that they could pull up. Only one diver, to his knowledge, ever made it back, and they told a story of finding the temple below the waves intact.
Yeah.
Nothing else, just the temple.
And are you aware of any way to get down to said temple without diving? I don't. I don't swim the best.
He kind of laughs a little bit. He's like, I don't, unfortunately. There's certain magics that could allow you the ability to breathe underwater.
How deep down did the diver say it was?
Fairly deep. But, I mean, he was a skinned... He didn't have any magic. He could hold his breath and go down, so...
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. I feel better than I have in a while.
Are you gonna go and ruin that again, or
Yep,
take
that's my
advantage
plan.
of it? Well, have fun. Do you need a job as a barkeep? You'd be quite good at it.
Why?
Well, I think Mister, I gave his name, it will be moving on to greener pastures.
You see him kind of brush himself off. He reaches down and grabs kind of a grimy-looking pack, out of which you see what looks like a lyre kind of poking out the top, but several of the strings are broken. And you see him kind of walk past you, glance into the room where everybody's kind of still... The carousing has resumed since you left. Rocks behind the bar and goes, "Right, I'm the bartender now."
I mean, I figured it'd work for him because it's all the booze that he could want.
Correct.
So, yeah. She turns to Ronnie. Adira turns to Ronnie and says, "Well, looks like we have a temple to go to."
You see him kind of, yep. It sounds like bad juju.
Very bad juju.
And you still want to go?
Want to go? No. Feel a pressing need and... Yes. Yes. Feel a pressing need to go? Yes. Want to need, very different.
He sighs.
You could turn back. If you
I'm
would
not
like.
gonna turn back. You... I mean, no offense, but you don't look like a strong swimmer.
Well, I said that, so no offense taken whatsoever.
How are we gonna get there?
That's a good question.
Like, he kind of glances out of from one of the stalls. He's like, "There's docks. I think there are boats. One of them might actually go and not have giant holes in them."
Well, why don't we take a boat out there? I can see into the water fairly far, hopefully. And that if I can see the temple, I might be able to get us there.
He just kind of nods. So you guys head down to where he saw the docks, and yeah, there's some ramshackle docks, and there are some boats. The boats are not in the greatest condition. I think the phrase is "rode hard and put away wet." But eventually, between the two of you, you manage to find one that will not immediately sink, and that Ronnie proclaims will probably get you to the center of the lake. As it is a fairly large lake. And you guys get in the boat. It takes a good couple of hours to get to the center of the lake.
My God, that's deep. Or that's wide.
That's wide. If you look on the... Like, I don't know if you have the map in front of you or not, but if you look on the map, it is a couple of miles across.
Oh, no, I don't have the map up.
Yeah,
so,
it's...
okay.
Think of like a Lake Superior-sized lake.
Okay.
Okay, maybe not Lake Michigan-sized lake.
Okay.
And yeah, but eventually you do get there. The rain does not cease. I did have a combat encounter, but in the interests of time, I think we're going to skip it.
Sure.
Because this is really more about the story than actually, like, displaying your fighting prowess.
Right, yeah.
How far does your Devil's Sight reach? 120 feet?
Yeah.
As you gaze down into the murky depths of the water, your dark vision does penetrate a goodly distance. And you think you can just make out the top of a tower.
Okay. So I don't know how you want to do this, but Adira reaches into her bag, throws one of the shadow cloaks at him that she had kept.
Okay.
It's overcast, yes?
Yeah.
Would one describe it as
Shadowy.
real shadowy?
Not necessarily, but if you climbed into the water, if you actually went into the water and went down a few feet, it would be.
So we're going to go down just a little bit, and then hold my hand, and we are going to shadow swim downward.
Okay. I will remind you that the cloaks require attunement.
Okay, so maybe I handed it to him as. Oh no, you have to be resting. So maybe I handed it to him like on the journey or something like that. I don't know.
Okay, that's fair. So he has one of the cloaks from at some point in the journey. Okay, that works. So yeah, we retcon. He has a cloak now, and has had one for some time. All right, so you guys go into the water.
Cold and gross.
Yep. It feels a little greasy, honestly.
Adira dislikes it.
And you swim down a few feet, and then...
Weep, weep, weep.
Okay.
Because we're not in combat, I'm just assuming, like, every 6 seconds, like, go down further.
For flavor's sake, we're going to say that works, because I think the cloaks only work once per short rest, but, I don't remember off the top of my head, so just...
Okay.
It works. And yeah, you get down after a while. What is your Constitution score?
12.
You have 1 minute to hold your breath.
I can't take a door and like in Minecraft and open it to create a pocket of air.
Oh. We are not applying Minecraft physics to our D&D.
Damn it. But we can use Wall of Force physics.
Well, so let's math this out. 120 feet, you move 30. So that is 4 jumps. So 4 times 6 seconds is 24 seconds.
Yep.
So as you get down to that 120 feet, it takes about almost half of the time that you have to hold your breath, and you're already starting to feel the pressure on your lungs. You find there is, in fact, the top of this tower, and you're able to kind of see, like, as you're moving down, like, your dark vision obviously extends. And you are able to kind of see more and more of this. As you get lower, basically as you get to the top of the tower, you realize the tower goes up, would have been about 100 odd feet. Like, it was a very tall tower when it was above. But as you're looking down with your dark vision, you're realizing that from down below there is light coming out of the opening of this temple. And yeah.
And how much further down is it?
About 100 feet.
Okay.
3 more jumps.
We're gonna do something. I can't take him with Far Step because I could just get down there like that. So we're going to. You said 3 more jumps?
Yeah.
Yeah. Get down there. Get down there.
Okay. Boop boop boop. Another 18 seconds.
Okay. What do we see?
As you get down, you see the temple doors. There aren't any. There were at some point, but there aren't any now. but they are gone. And you see this kind of glowing. It's like looking at a black light. This very UV purple light kind of emanating from inside this thing. You're 90% sure that there's an air pocket in there.
We go that direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you go and kind of pass into the door where the archway where the doors had been, sure enough, yeah, you swim out and there's just the sheer wall of water. Something is keeping it out. Some force. It is not a wall of force, because you were able to pass through it. But as you step out, you were... Ronnie does not seem to be terribly bothered with his 18 constitution.
Well, here we are.
That water was unpleasant.
Very greasy.
As you see him kind of like... At first he's like trying to move it off, but then he realizes it almost feels like he's rubbing it in, so he's just like,
No, it's okay. It's okay. Whoop.
It's like, that is a neat trick.
Yes. And then she does the same to herself. Well, let's go see what there is to see.
You don't see, as you're in here, like that light is kind of pouring out, but you don't see a source.
What do we see? Like, what's the
interior
standing
of the thing? A large, what looks like what would have been like a narthex. So basically, a large entryway with a room for a lot of people, and kind of beyond, there's a set of double doors, which does seem to be, light seems to be pouring out of there as well. A set of double doors which are intact. There is a bunch of like stained glass. Like the interior of this thing looks completely intact. The outside looked a little worse for wear, but the inside looks completely intact. So there's the narthex entry area. There's a bunch of like hooded statues, kind of praying, but a bit like this. You can't see any faces. It's each of the statues is very much kind of reminiscent of the creepiness of the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who. There's stained glass on the doors ahead of you, depicting what you assume to be this one religious leader, standing on a balcony that you had passed, preaching to a bunch of masses while the moon is kind of overhead. There's stairs kind of going up, like a set of grand staircases going up, leading to who the fuck knows where.
Ronnie, I'm going to do something that's going to sound creepy, is potentially stupid, and I need you to be ready to punch things.
Right, he drops his pack, kind of cracks his knuckles.
And then she says, just to give it a shot, says the incantation or whatever the fuck that thing, the riddle was, in Infernal.
Okay. The place doesn't rumble necessarily, but it kind of thrums with this energy as you speak the words. And you see the stained glass start to morph and form into more infernal lettering. Ronnie is obviously completely lost, but you read it just fine. And it says, only the daughter may enter. Oh, sorry. Only the daughter of the hills may enter.
Ronnie, don't take another step forward. Apparently I must do this alone.
Well, I'm sorry. As the doors open.
So don't go in there.
Okay.
Stay here.
Right.
Trying to remember what Global Invulnerability does.
Protects you from spells.
She looks at the staff, looks at him, and boops him on the chest and says, "Here," and casts Global Invulnerability on him. Don't die. I don't know that I could forgive myself. And then she walks through the doors.
Great. I'll be great. It's this pugilist is sitting in the middle of this half quasi opaque glowing orb. So you walk in. As you walk in, the light disappears. And
super good. I have dark vision.
Yes, I know. The light disappears, but you still cannot see. You get a vague impression of, as you walked in, a sanctuary. There were a number of literally like pews lining either side of a walkway leading up to a raised kind of dais sort of thing, at the center of which there was an altar. The altar, in the brief second that you got a glimpse of it, appeared to be made of some kind of black stone or maybe obsidian. And you could still see some very ancient blood stains decorating it immediately before the lights go out. You glance behind you, and the door is open, and it's still kind of there, and you get a vague impression of what's beyond. But it's still pretty dim, almost like you have normal vision in a dark room. And you get this sense, this kind of creeping up your spinal column of movement. And at first it seems to be coming from directly ahead of you, but periodically you'll hear something moving to one side or the other. And then a voice. A voice you recognize. A voice that you recognize from a dream that you had not so long ago. You have come a long way.
Indeed. All the way from Saul's Rest, but I do not think that is what you're referring to.
You have done better than your siblings.
Unaware that I had siblings, that's new information.
You don't any longer.
Well, then I haven't lost anything.
You have questions.
That I do.
You may ask 3.
3? You'll have to give me a moment.
There's just silence. Except for that occasional moving sound. And I know I'm totally putting you on the spot, and I'm not sorry.
Yeah, I know. What purpose do you have for me?
You are to serve. To stop the blasphemer.
To serve to stop the blasphemer. Well, that's very cryptic. There are many blasphemers that I know.
There is only one that concerns me.
Now, having some knowledge of this entity, brief, like I know it's not much. Can I do like a knowledge history to see who that might be without wasting another question?
Sure.
Okay. Player David is thinking it's probably Caruth, but I'm not sure. I don't know. 21.
My question to you is, are you trying to figure out who you are talking to or who the blasphemer is?
Who the blasphemer is, I'm fairly certain it's the same dragon that I talked to in my dream, is what I'm talking to.
Gotcha.
Because that's the dream that I had. And I believe we had a conversation that it was one of the progenitor dragons, so I do know that much. Unless unless that has changed and we need to retcon that.
No.
Okay. And I do know that it was the one that was kind of like doing what you need to do. So I do know that much. I'm asking who, like, I want to know who the blasphemer is from this, knowing what I know of this progenitor dragon from their perspective.
You would know him as Arkodaban.
Sorry, that was a knowledge history check, not a question. I apologize if I didn't make that
Yes,
clear.
you did.
Okay.
You didn't waste a question either. He volunteered.
Oh, okay. Do I know who this is?
Kodaban? Yes, you do.
Okay.
You, because we were in a hurry the last time we gamed, he was the, who the Shadow Dragon in Winterhold served.
Great. Adira feels a huge sense of relief. Wonderful. She actually says, wonderful. Well, we killed one of Kodaban's peers, servants, and that went well for us.
Underlings.
Underling. That's fine. Will I have to betray my friends in order to accomplish this?
You will do what is necessary.
And then when Okadaban is defeated, am I free to do as I please?
If you survive.
Right. That was a given. Well, those are my questions. Thank you. This is a terrible place. And if I may offer just one more personal, why here?
You sought where you came from.
Oh, and I came from here. Yes. So you met me here. Perfect.
I made you here.
Oh? Made me. And then you sent me to that road near Woodside.
I sent 101 of you and your brothers and sisters throughout the world.
My God, and I'm the only one left?
The others succumbed to the darker natures.
What a disappointing brood. I apologize.
Indeed.
Well, I know this dragon's name, right?
Yes.
I think I do, yes.
I think it was Porphyria.
Porphyria, yeah. Well, you have been very generous with what you have offered me today. That provides me the clarity that I believe that I needed in order to take care of this Kodaban. Not alone, of course. I don't think I could do that.
It would be unwise to do so.
I wouldn't try. But Porphyria, I thank you for your time. And I'd rather not have to hold my breath again to get through that awful water. If there's any chance that you might help myself and my friend Ronnie, my new friend Ronnie, out there up to the surface, Is that a possibility?
You hear that kind of movement again, and this time you get the sense that there's something moving closer to you, and to just in the dimness of what you're able to see, you see what looks like a terrible snout and maw of a dragon, many times larger than the one you fought under Winterhold. And it breathes on you. And you are standing on the shore of Lake Kavor with Ronnie.
Is Ronnie there?
Yep,
Good.
Ronnie is there too. Looking very confused.
Hello, Ronnie.
What?
Well, we were successful. I found out the answers that I needed. You didn't die, which I am very grateful for.
Me too.
And I just realized that I will likely not have to betray any of my friends in order to do what needs to be done.
Can we go home?
That's how I feel.
Can we go home now?
Indeed.
All right. You head back to Saul's Rest. So that takes you to about the 2-month mark.
Sure.
What would Adira do for the remaining 4?
For the remaining 4, Adira would probably finish tinkering with her thing. If I'm correct, I think it was like 6 weeks total time that she needed to tinker with the anti-scrying device, so that would be more than enough time.
Yes. You will be done by the time this will be over.
Yeah. And then...
Especially if you take the time, like you stay at Saul's Rest or wherever and just dedicate your time to doing that. Yeah,
that'd be one of the things that she did. Another thing that she would do, she would probably try to spend her resources on Rowan Thane Tower and making that a fortress, like a true, I don't know what would go all into that, but like trying to fortify it to the best of her ability. And then an idea that I had, and I don't know, and this is something I wanted to bounce off of you as the GM, is that she doesn't like that it is a source of contention that is so close to her home. So what are the chances of moving it via magical methods? Or is there a significant reason why it is there?
It is there. It cannot be moved.
It cannot be moved. Okay.
Yes, it is there for reasons.
Okay. All right, then it will not be moved. But she will then try to fortify it as best to her ability.
Okay. We will talk off mics about what that will look like.
Yeah, and in the remaining time, she would probably just be doing as much research as possible on Akodaban, the history thereof, trying to gain some sort of at least knowledge, if not tactical edge, about what this thing's motivations are, what it wants, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we will deal with that another time.
Yay.
One thing that the dragon bestowed upon you when it teleported you back to the edge of the lake, those bracers you're wearing.
Sure.
Those are the bracers of the Shadow Dragon.
Ooh.
Which I will make up in D&D Beyond for you. But
sure.
Fundamentally, you may cast any cantrip that you know as a bonus action, even if you have already cast a spell that round.
Cool.
So theoretically, you could get 2 Eldritch Blasts.
Oh, I forgot Eldritch Blast was the cantrip. Jesus
meaning
Christ.
6 beams of Eldritch Blast.
And that, how often is that allowed?
You take a bonus action.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
So that is to some degree to make up for the fact that I nerfed your breath weapon.
Yeah. Sounds good. I'm happy with it. That's fine with me.
Cool. I'll make them up in D&D Beyond, and I'll add them to your sheet.
Sounds good. That was fun. I like that. I love that sort of stuff, that role play stuff.
Well, and I'm like, I was gonna throw in like a Cthulhu monster that you had to fight on your way down, but I'm like, as we were getting closer to the end of the 2 hour mark, I'm like, let's just roleplay this out. That's more fun anyway.
Yeah. No, it was a good time.
Good.
It was a good time.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We will return on. I think we determined it was April 24th for regular games again. You should be looking out for more of these. I'll be putting them out periodically over the next couple of weeks. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon. As I struggle to hit the end button.